much, everyone, for being here. This has been, I think, so far the largest meetup we've had from people from all over the world. But welcome to Barcelona. So you can see here, there's a collaboration between Bitcoin Barcelona, Clover Labs, and Lightning Labs. Clover Labs, they come from nearby, from our own country, but Lightning Labs, they come from very far away and all over the world, so a big clap for them. Thank you for being here. And so, let's start with explaining what BBO is, or Barcelona Bitcoin Only. So, Barcelona only Bitcoin, we don't do shitcoins, okay? If anyone's here for the shitcoins or NFTs, get out of here. So, we do Bitcoin meetups every month. We also do beers and drinks and whatnot. And we do education, Q&As, networking, entertainment, all types of things. You can find a few of those things in our YouTube channel. And as said before, we do no crypto bullshit. We only do Bitcoin, and we try to be as cyberpunk as possible. If you've been to other of our meetups, you will know that we take it seriously, and we even have an underground basement that is very grungy. So yeah, we're shadowy supercoders down here in Barcelona. So that's a few of the things we've done. You can see we have a strong community down here, so we welcome you to stay in Barcelona and enjoy the weather, the food, and the community. We have beers, we have sun, we have sea, hard to see down there, but you know, you're in good hands down here. So, not just meetups, but we also have very active members that do lots of projects. Some of them are P2P training or creating websites and promoting education and, well, anything else. I mean, you can see here some of the things that we're doing. We have meetups to 2,140 promoted by some Spanish local influencers. Peach Bitcoin, they're also part of Barcelona Bitcoin thanks to Akakush, he's down there in orange. You can do P2P trading down here, so try it out, it's an app. Bitmaker, he's also around here, he does the nice, what's it called, block miner, nerd miner, exactly, so you can do like block mining. Planet B, that's a sort of consulting that we're getting started down here. Then we also have MiniVolt, which is Rusty Volt, but for mini PCs, because, I mean, if you have tried to get a Rusty lately, you know, it's impossible, so yeah, let's get it on mini PCs. We also have European Bitcoiners, trying to like educate Europe, you know, not just local meetups and whatnot, but also try to create intercommunications between the different meetups. We have Kamisadoshi, the first Bitcoin-only shop in Spain and potentially also in Europe. It only accepts Bitcoin in all of its transactions, so also for suppliers and also for zero. Yeah, no fee. If you want to support that, it's down there. Be sure to check out their shirts and other merch. It's fucking cool as fuck. So yeah, check it out. We also have a local Bitcoiner who does cómo and Bitcoin. That's just like get paid in Bitcoin or like, yeah, get paid in Bitcoin as a business. Scafo, I'm not sure if he's here today, but he's a Lightning machine. Like he just gets everyone into Lightning, accepting Bitcoin on different businesses. Pretty cool. And also La Bitcoineta. It started from here, the 4th edition. Now around Serbia or around there, I'm not sure. But if you have been in any of the conferences in the past 2 months, you've seen them. Pretty cool guys, pretty rad. I mean, they're living a life, right? So that's just a little bit of what we do here. If you're local or if you're not local too, come up, let us know what you do, and we'll potentially get you here and like get you, you know, known by the community. So that will be it, more or less. So let's try to make this as populated as possible. Yeah, create more projects, get them up here. And yeah, if you want to donate to us to like support what we do, feel free to send some on-chain or Lightning sats. No fee at least, we don't like that. And yeah, I think that's it. Okay, this will be the agenda for today. We'll have an introductory talk by Jordi Montes on the Lightning Network. How many of you know what the Lightning Network is and how it works? Okay, I think this is the wrong room. Jordi, I think you can go home. Thank you very much. Not needed. Then we'll have a fireside chat with Elizabeth Stark and Lunaticoin, which should be here soon. Let's cross our fingers that the Spanish traffic doesn't fuck him up. And then a little panel on the adoption of LN on a global scale. And to finish it off, of course, ElenPAY, which have become almost part of Barcelona Bitcoin. I mean, when are you gonna, guys, I don't know, start sponsoring us, you know, I don't know, just they're all in here, you know, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at you. And yeah, they're going to talk us through a little bit of what Lightning Service Provider does. And I think that should be pretty cool. And afterwards, as usual, we'll have some beers, we'll have some drinks and food and tapas and whatnot. So stick around, enjoy it, enjoy the community. And if I'm not wrong, this is it. Thank you very much. Let's get into our journey.
For everyone that said like, yeah, I understand the Lightning Network because I have many questions. So now we will see. And I have like really good news for the person that did like this. So after this presentation, it should be much clearer. So let's talk about the Lightning Network. We have like really good talks today, so I'm going to try to take as least time as possible. So, you know, like, you can enjoy the other people that are the ones that really know. We're going to go through what is the Lightning Network like really fast and the building blocks that should allow people who understand to make better questions and people who don't understand to get, you know, a clear map of what is going on. Then we're going to talk about what are some of the challenges that the Lightning Network has. And then we're going to spend like a bit of time talking what may come next or where we are going. Let me see. Okay. So the first thing is like, what's the Lightning Network? For the people that already know organic cryptography, I guess that they already know Alice and Bob. If not, you know, like you're going to see this name like quite often. And what we want is some way that Alice can transfer value to Bob. And of course, when we think about transferring value, we are talking about Bitcoin. So how the Lightning Network works is like there is something called payment channels. Payment channels are basically like a financial relation where they basically deposit money, it can be Alice or Bob, and what they say is we're going to do a multi-sig where that has control over like some number of funds, and then every time that we want to move those funds, you and the counterparty needs to sign. So basically, it's funds that is controlled from both parties. In this case, it's Alice, the one that opened the channel, and has a relation, financial relation of 1 Bitcoin with Bob. This is locked on the blockchain. So you know, like, you can go to the blockchain and say like, okay, yeah, this is a channel. There is the concept of balances. Like, okay, yeah, there is some UTXO in Bitcoin that it has not been spent yet. This is the value, but because it's controlled by two people, the hard part is to decide like who gets what. So basically, when it starts, the funding part it's the one that owns all the balance, and the other part has zero. The interesting thing is that until here we have not done anything yet at least useful, because what we wanted is for Alice to pay Bob, and what happens now is that there is a UTXO that Alice does not control anymore, so you know, like lost control of 1 Bitcoin, and it has still like 1 Bitcoin on its balance. So Bob still hasn't been paid. The interesting thing is that atomically we can basically update the balances. So once the channel has been confirmed, we can always transfer money in both directions and keep taking the balances. So it basically means that Bitcoin scales much more because now when you already know who you want to pay, you open a channel to that person, and then you can update balances, and those do not reflect on the blockchain. So you basically do one transaction at the beginning, update the balances as much as you want, and then eventually when you close it, we will see like the balances get recorded. It's interesting that it can go both places. So of course, it will never be like Bob cannot pay 2 Bitcoin to Alice using this channel, but as long as it has a balance on its side, it's always able to do this one. As long as it knows, and it's with the last balances that they had agreed. Now, most of the time, you don't want to do a transaction for every person that you want to transact with. So the interesting part and why it's called network is because we can utilize other channels from other people. So basically, if Alice wants to pay Bob, it can open a channel between them and then, like do the pay the balances. Or they can use the rest of the Lightning network by saying like, okay, Alice wants to pay Bob, why doesn't Alice pay Charlie? Charlie pays someone else pays Diana, and Diana will pay. Of course, something interesting is like, okay, why would Charlie be willing to pay someone else? Or why would Diana want to pay for Alice things that want to buy? And in reality, it's because, okay, no, Diana is going to pay because someone else is going to pay Diana, and usually they are going to get fees. They are going to ask, like, okay, yeah, I am Diana, I can pay to Bob, but I am asking for, if you want me to pay 1 BTC to Bob, I'm going to ask for 1 BTC plus something. So, reality, until here, if this is the first time that you heard about the Lightning Network, you may be asking like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I think that the best way to introduce this is by actually showing how it works. So let me change this 1 second for this. For sure, many people may not know what the Lightning Network is, but everyone knows what Airbnb is. And this is the part of the talk that my girlfriend appreciates the most, because after this we can always, we have some funds that we can spend on Airbnb. So basically I went to Bitcoin, that it's a page that sells gift cards, and I want to say that I am willing to pay for a gift card of $50. I want to skip this part, I won't use any of these wallets. Okay, so this is an invoice that the Bitcoin node created, and I don't have any relation with Bitcoin. What we have is like Bitcoin has a node in the Lightning Network. My phone is connected to my node that may or may not be in Vancouver. I'm not going to dox myself. But basically this is connecting to somewhere else in the world, and it's going to be able to read this invoice. It basically shows me how much it is. The exchange rate looks correct, so I'm going to proceed to pay it. It says paid, and they are willing now to give me. Perfect. I hope like now I already like got your attention. You know, like forget about channels and stuff. Like you can get Airbnb, you know, with this.
Tori, did you have a channel with BitRefill?
No.
Okay, so how did it get there?
I think that Diana paid Bitcoin.
Okay, cool.
Perfect. So let's see what are the building blocks. There is this thing that it's the payment channels that we just discussed. I have payment channels with some people, those people, some nodes. Actually, my node has payment channels and some other nodes. And then I just instruct my nodes to use those for taking the balances with my peers, so the people that I am directly connected to. Then there is the gossip protocol, that it's the part that, okay, there is this thing that it's a network. Here it was like some kind of cloud, but in reality, your node needs to have some vision of how that network is. So we know, you know, like who you are paying with and what is the path that it's going to go through. Then there is the part of pathfinding, that it's like, okay, when you already know what nodes are out there and what are their financial relation, and you want to pay someone, you need to craft a path that basically is going to instruct Charlie to pay I don't know who, to pay Diana, to pay. And the last part is payments, and for payments there are like two important concepts that we need to keep in mind, that it's pull payments or push payments. Here what happened is like we pull a payment. So Bitcoin said like, okay, this is the invoice, this contains information that you need to pay me. And it's one of the most important concepts in the Lightning Network. But there is also this other idea of pushing payments. If I already know that Bitcoin is the person that I need to pay, I can, instead of first contacting them and then say like, okay, generate an invoice that I'm going to scan and I'm going to use for paying, I can just say, I can instruct my node to say like, okay, pay this other node, this amount. And that's it. He sent and Then this looks really nice and it just worked, but there is a lot of things going behind. The first one is liquidity management. This idea of that you have channels and then you push, and there is like, you know, like other people that are as like forwarding payments. That's a pretty hard problem, and the more we grow, like, the harder it gets to, like, well, sorry, the more we grow, the easier it gets for payments to go through, but it doesn't happen automatically. Like, it's a really hard problem to ensure that liquidity is what it's needed when it's needed. And of course, there are many people that are trying to build businesses for this problem. The next one is like, okay, this works right now, but most of the time I want to see things like, okay, what is my node doing? What payments did I did in the last month? How many payments failed? And the Lightning Network is it's a protocol that is implemented by many people, and there are multiple implementations. But it's important to keep in mind that many times you need like a lot of tooling that actually help you to get insights of what your node is doing. And of course, the last part is like accounting. You want to know, like, okay, where did my money go? The Lightning Network evolves like continuously. Now it has been, I think that the paper was in 2016, but there are people here that can correct me if there was like a draft version or something in 2015 or something. But for sure it's
Beta 2018.
Okay, like the first,
Paper.
the paper.
Paper 2015.
2015, okay, perfect. And then there are like, three things that I am like pretty excited about. The first one is Taproot Assets. Bitcoin had a great update called Taproot that allows us to do like much more stuff. The first one is going to be increased privacy for users and make it harder for chain analysis to know, what is going on with the channels. That's going to be thanks to Taproot Assets and Taproot channels. That should be in production pretty soon. I want to say that we're getting close. You can ask later some people here and try to push for it. Then the second one is L402, that was a protocol that it's basically there is an HTTP protocol. This may be too low level, but if someone gets it, if not, like, you can ask me later. But there is an HTTP code for payment requested. People that invented the internet, they knew that at some point we were going to be able to make payments, but they didn't know how. Most of the payment transmitters of the internet seem to don't care about this problem. Like you could imagine that big players here already thought like, okay, how can we transfer money on the internet in a native way? And it looks like Bitcoin had to come to allow this. And L402 is one of the implementations for this. And the last one is the Lightning Network doesn't live in the void. There are like many other protocols that are now connecting because this idea of transferring value is like humans do most of the time. They create value and then they want to transfer it to someone. And there are like this part that I expect to grow a lot in the next months and years. Now, I tried to condense as much information as I could in 15 minutes, if everything goes well. The important part is the one that you saw, that I basically was able to get Airbnb credit in no time. I actually lost Bitcoin from that, of course. There is no loophole here. Yeah, I would like for the audience to talk about whatever, like ask about whatever they are interested in, so I can provide more information. Yeah.
People want to ask.
Yeah, of course. People can ask in Catalan, Spanish, or English, whatever you feel. O in Català, Espanyol i English.
Jo preguntaré en català, doncs. Què és aquesta cosa d'intel·ligència artificial que ha sortit fa poquet?
Well, okay. Pues, first I'm going to reply in Catalan, that is yes, and then I'm going to translate it to English. Fa poquet és no tan poquet, perquè el L402 va començar el 2019, però la idea és les màquines volen consumir recursos, necessiten pagar i no tenen targeta de crèdit, no tenen número de mòbil on et puc enviar un SMS perquè puguis confirmar que és una persona. Internet bàsicament va evolucionar dient, vale, els bots no poden fer res útil, per tant m'he d'assegurar que el que hi ha darrere no és un bot. Ara els bots comencen a ser capaços de fer coses útils, per tant el normal seria dir, vale, vull acceptar diners de bots, poden ser els meus usuaris, però en els últims 15 anys internet ha evolucionat intentant punxar-nos cap a fora. I 402 és la implementació que sembla ser que ajudarà a que els bots puguin parar. Sí, bàsicament el que funciona és vull accedir a aquest recurs i la màquina contesta, ok, doncs aquest recurs se paga. Però bàsicament contesta amb una invoice. Mira, paga aquesta invoice i sí, aquest seria el turno del recurs. Now in English, really quickly, what is this new thing? Like the question is, what was this new thing of 402 for machines to pay to machines? New here, it's like in quotes because this was released in 2019 or so. 20. And but now it's when it's it has been in production for years. I can tell you that for sure because I've seen it working. Until now, the internet evolved saying like bots cannot do util stuff. So if I detect that there is a bot that is trying to consume a service, I want to cut it off. I want to be sure that only humans are accessing my service because are the only ones who can use the service in the right way. Now with AI, it looks like machines can become an economic agent. Like they can start using some services, and it's a valid usage of it. So for 15 years, we have been trying to build all the firewalls to ensure that bots cannot access our services, that there is always a person behind. For example, you register and they say like, okay, give me your phone number, and then you need to be online to, like click the, I don't know, like Google shows you 3 numbers, and you say like, okay, yes, 68 is the one that's shown on the screen, just to be sure that there is a person. And now out of the blue, services say like, well, there are bots out there and they are trying to use my service and it's a valid usage. So how do I charge them? And yeah, it looks like the right answer is Bitcoin. It's a native currency on the internet. And there is this 402 that basically says like you get hit to an endpoint or a server, and then there is a client that is trying to consume some resource, and you say like, well, just pay this invoice, and then I will give you access to this resource, and machines can do that without any problem.
It sounds really complicated. Like, is it going to take a lot of effort for me to make my services
yes. The good thing is that because it has been in production for years, it has been improved for years, and right now there are actually like open implementations. There is one from Lightning Labs called Aperture that you can just download and install and run in an afternoon. I am so sure about that I am willing to give you like my phone number. If you have any problem, text me, because I know that nobody is going to text me, and many people are not going to problem. So yeah, like just hit me later.
Okay, what are the requirements and benefits for creating a node in the Lightning network?
Perfect. That's perfect. That's actually a really good question. The first one is that only nodes in the Lightning network can participate in the Lightning network. So when I do a payment, I can instruct my node to do a payment, or I can instruct someone else's node to make the payment. So as the Bitcoin ethos many times says, like, okay, like I want be myself, like I am in custody of my funds, and then I need to instruct my node and not someone else's. There are many parts of the Lightning network that a node does, and not running your own means that you are basically externalizing all this to someone else. So if you want to instruct someone else to pay an invoice for you, they are going to know who you're paying. If you're going to instruct every time that you want to pay for something, someone else to do it, they are going to know who you are paying like, all the time, and how much you are spending, and how much you are saving. So they also have to be the ones taking care of the liquidity. So if you think that you can make a better decision than them, you can actually pay less fees by allocating your capital properly instead of externalizing it to someone else. And yeah, it's basically about being able to be sovereign and be you the one that participates in it. It has been in beta for mainnet 2018, you said, Elizabeth?
Mainnet beta was, March 2018.
Perfect. So this is software that has been improving a lot for like 5 years already. That means that now there are even like mobile phones that have like implementations running them for you, or at least like do some of these parts.
Hold the mic closer so they don't have to.
Okay.
How many nodes are currently in the Lightning Network?
Are we at 18,000 now? Yeah. However, reality that's like asking how many routers are on the internet. I see some of them, but I don't know if there's like some private. Yeah.
Hi. You were talking about blockchain and technology, and the Lightning Network is very nice, very interesting, but however, I would like to emphasize that the point of many come here is how to use it in the real world, how to give this a practical use. And we have to understand that the most practical use of cryptocurrencies is its interaction with the fiat currency. Eventually, fiat will disappear, but however, the real world still works with fiat. And I will just put an example. I tried to pay a bigger fare, and they didn't accept my Bitcoin. They say I had to pay with fiat. So, how to use Lightning Network in the real world? How to use it with fiat?
Yeah, I have like 2 good points in this one. First of all, like I went there, and what they didn't want was my fiat, but it was kind of curious. But yeah, I think. However, there is this here that was the first one, and it's called Taproot Assets. I don't know who said bitcoinizing the dollar. It was one of the objectives of this decade. So this is basically assets that are issued on top of Bitcoin, and they are able to be sent and received through the Lightning Network. So there is now something called Taproot Assets that you can find on GitHub, and it's okay. It's in alpha right now.
Is it possible to use a MasterCard, for example, with Lightning Network? Yes, soon.
Yeah, so right now,
with that you can pay and buy things on the street.
yeah, my node doesn't understand what credit card is right now. So if you're trying to send me money with your card, it's not going to work because Visa is not going to talk to my node. However, what happens is there are intermediaries in the middle that say like, I want your Bitcoin. So if you send me your Bitcoin, I am happy to pay your fiat bills. And actually the opposite. Like they say like, okay, yeah, I want your fiat, and I want to pay for Bitcoin invoices. So that's basically how it's going to work.
Yeah, and one last thing, you will discover that in the last talk that we're having today, and we prepared this Q&A to go to the next talk. Sorry, guys.
No, I think it's a really good point.
I don't think these two guys need introduction. Anyway, we have Elizabeth Stark, CEO of Lightning Labs here, and Renati Cohen, the biggest Hispanohablante podcaster in the world. So, there you go, guys.
Thank you. we first met. Where did we meet?
Well, it's been a while.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember, but I met you 2019.
In Berlin.
Yeah.
At the Lightning Conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you wanted me to do a podcast. I'm sorry, I got a little busy. But we'll make that happen.
I was catching you there, like trying to Elizabeth.
No, I remember that. We're upstairs. How many people here were at the Lightning Conference in Berlin? Okay. Couple folks from the Lightning Labs crew. Yeah, that was right before. The world changed quite a bit a couple months later, but now we are back here.
Yeah.
And as focused on Bitcoin and Lightning as ever. So really excited to be back and in your hometown.
Yes, correct. I'm also very happy, and I just want to say that it feels very good to be home. It's the first time that I speak home. It feels weird because always whenever
Did the interview in Catalan?
we can do. You remember how to say good afternoon?
Well, I know si estado, gracias. I know a couple things, yeah.
No, but it feels very good because normally I have to take a plane, travel I don't know how many hours, cross the Atlantic, and that felt just, I was a bit late, but it was just taking the car and I'm here, so yeah, very happy to be here. Elizabeth, last time we met, it was in Argentina, it was in La Bitcoin. We had a panel there, and it was a very interesting panel also with Samson and other people. We were talking Lightning, and yeah, it's been, I don't know, it's been maybe 10 months since then, or 9 months, and a lot of things have happened. Also on your side, on Lightning Labs side, I, of course, I'm all the time on Twitter, and I'm seeing what's going on, what are you talking about. And yeah, I would like to start with that. What's on Lightning Labs side of things? What are you focused now?
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a year. Just we're thinking, back to over the past year. A lot has happened, in the broader crypto space. Bitcoin is still here. Bitcoin is still running. Every 10 minutes, on average, there's a Bitcoin block. Bitcoin is something that we know it's secure and reliable, unlike a lot of the other broader crypto sphere. In fact, when we were in Argentina, that was the week that all the FTX craziness happened, and it was such a striking difference to see, the staying power of Bitcoin and the Bitcoin and Lightning community and everything that was going on in the broader shitcoin house of cards world, you could say, or much more on the gambling side. So one of the things that I'm so passionate about and why I think we're all here is really the ability of Bitcoin to broaden financial access to the world, to bring financial freedom to so many people globally, and that's why it's so exciting to be here in Barcelona, where I know we have many freedom-loving people in this community. So over the past year, it's really been somewhat of a roller coaster, right? I mean, you saw a lot of broader kind of crypto issues. On the Bitcoin Lightning side, there's been a lot of building, which is really significant. And though it's been a bear market in the kind of price side of things, that's typically when things get done. And in fact, I really like bear markets. Whenever we were chatting about this with our team, whenever the price goes up, it's distracting. It's kind of like a frenzy. It's harder to get things done. We're in this kind of calm phase right now where you can kind of just get shit done. That's been really productive. So some of the developments we've seen. How many people here are on Nostr? Nice. Okay. How many people here have sent a zap on Nostr? All right. Very cool. So Nostr is an open messaging and social media protocol. The initial kind of use case is one of a Twitter where you own your identity, you own your followers, you can take them with you with your pub key to a variety of other clients. You don't have Elon changing things, every second and locking you in and then shutting off API access and turning it back on. Don't even get me started on all that. And we've seen the growth of that community. The protocol had been in development for a couple years prior by Lightning devs, including Fiat, and then a number of folks, including Will Kazarin, developed Dalmases. And by the way, I don't know if people follow that, but the Apple App Store is still, unfortunately, clamping down and exerting control in a way that is very anti-Bitcoin and Lightning, in that they unfortunately said that Dalmases in the iOS App Store could not allow people to zap tweets or posts, which makes no sense.
But then they created the Zappelday.
I believe it was other members of the community. Yes, they're trying to, people in the community were creating workarounds for that. But
and the government, I think it was.
yes, exactly. High level, we've seen the adoption of new protocols for messaging on the internet where users can control their identity and data with natively integrated payments, including Lightning, including Zaps and all of that, which has been significant. And it opened a lot of people's eyes. Like, I actually heard from the number of people that had not used Lightning, and they got on to Nostr with a variety of clients, progressive web app, Android, iOS, and they got Zap, and they were like, wait, what? I just got money? Like, it felt magical. So that's one big theme we've seen. Jordy mentioned it a bit, and I'm sure we'll hear about it on the next panel. But another area that we've been looking a lot at is the machine-to-machine web. I've said that the Lightning Network has two main classes of use cases. One, to enable access for those who previously did not have it, or broaden that access, everything from global adoption, financial freedom, emerging markets, bringing financial access to the world. And the second is enabling use cases that weren't previously possible, and that's where the machine-to-machine payments comes in. And as a person sitting in this room tweeted recently, who was the name of her speak, in 2023, the bots pay you, right? And what that means is, with the L4G protocol and some of the integrations we built out, including with this API called LangChain, that enables devs to access, say, a variety of APIs for like large language models, you can natively pay with Lightning. You don't need a username, you don't need a password, you don't need a credit card, you don't have to have the fraud issues. What happens if you're living in a place where you don't have easy access to this card network, right? You're in a village in Nigeria or in India or, Uruguay, wherever. You are able to use this technology. And we're also seeing a rise of developers. And for those that aren't familiar, check out Replit, and shout out, there's a dev in the Bitcoin Lightning community named Cody Lowe that's very deep into Replit, enabling web-based development and really easy-to-use tools. And a lot of newer devs are using Replit to spin up apps. And the ability to integrate, say, machine-to-machine payments with Lightning is really significant and game-changing because you're not reliant on a traditional financial system. For example, here in Barcelona, my bank, even though I told them I was going to be traveling, which I don't usually do, was just shutting off my account to be able to pay at places that don't take Bitcoin with Lightning, right? With my money. And they think it's some kind of fraud. I mean, the whole system is so incredibly insecure, and we're building a new system that is fair, that is far more transparent, that is accessible, and that is far cheaper because you have this pseudo-monopoly, duopoly of the payment system, both in terms of card payments and then cross-border payments. So that's another major area. And the third that we've been hard at work on, and some folks asked about, the fiat aspect. And I know you don't want people to pay in fiat at the meetup, totally get that. But the idea is, Jordy mentioned this, and a term that I come up with is to Bitcoinize the dollar. You hear of dollarized economies. El Salvador was initially a dollarized economy, now it's becoming a Bitcoinized economy. But fiat is going to be here for a while, so what if all fiat could actually be transferred over to the Bitcoin network with the security of Bitcoin, and then a Lightning routed through Bitcoin nodes, and not just dollars, right? You can have, pesos, you can have euros, you can have, all sorts of rupees, routed on the Lightning Network using Bitcoin liquidity with Bitcoin nodes. Now, Bitcoin becomes the underlying global routing currency and has far greater significance when you can have an interoperable global mobile money where anyone can build on it like the internet, as opposed to the folks who are familiar, say, in Sub-Saharan Africa, there are different mobile money providers, they don't talk to each other. And by the way, check out Macha and Kura. Yeah, for those that have not heard of it, very cool application by a South African dev named KG, who is building effectively mobile money for initially the Sub-Saharan African region, although he wants to extend globally with non-smartphones. Many hundreds of millions of people in that region have non-smartphones, feature phones, right? And you can actually use USSD, which is an application interface for non-smartphones to be able to send and receive funds over Lightning. So very cool stuff. So anyway, a lot's happened in the past year. I'm sort of forgetting a lot of things too.
Yeah, probably. But what about Taproot Assets? You just spoke about them, but I feel that they were announced, I don't know, maybe more than a year ago.
Yeah, April 5th, 2022,
okay.
We announced just the BIPs and the concept of building multi-asset Bitcoin and Lightning using Taproot. And by the way, shout out as well again to Lalo, aka Roast Beef, really the brains behind all of this. He was looking at Taproot and saying, okay, I know there's something interesting to be done with assets. How can we use Taproot, the upgrade to the Bitcoin protocol, It actually activated in November 2021, and I also remember back in the day, there were some articles, people were like, Taproot's not that big of a deal, Bitcoin's boring. It's like, no, Bitcoin is not boring. Bitcoin is incredibly powerful. It can do so much. In fact, there's beauty in simplicity. And a lot of other people think, oh, we want to be able to do every computation and have all these complexities, and what happens? Complexity is the enemy of security, right? The more things you can do, say on a blockchain, the more bugs you're going to have, and we've seen that in the States and a lot of other places. So Bitcoin prioritizes security by design. I mean, in the early days, Satoshi even removed opcodes. Did not want to incompleteness, wanted to keep the base layer secure. And we can abstract complexities and more features to higher layers, and that's what we've done with Lightning. And now when you look at the assets component, we're able to use Taproot, the upgrade, to both issue assets on the Bitcoin chain. Now, by the way, we released the first version of the code late September 2022. It was an interesting day because the Bank of England was actually bailing folks out. I don't know if people remember that. There was a lot of chaos, the pound, GBP versus USD. A lot of bailouts tend to happen around Bitcoin events, right? And that's significant. And so that was the initial version. We have V2 out of the code for devs to play with. For any devs in the room, we're doing a monthly community call. The next one is Thursday, July 27th at, I believe it would be 7 p.m. Barcelona time, 1 p.m., right, Ryan? Okay, 1 p.m. New York City, what?
5 UTC, 1 Eastern.
Yep, which is 7 p.m. here. So we have a very active developer community now that's building on this. It is still on testnet for Bitcoin layer 1 base layer. Fingers crossed, the next release plan, we're not going to promise exactly when, but soon TM, is for mainnet. We want to get a mainnet release out there for layer 1, and then you also have the Lightning component. So we have been hard at work at Lightning Labs building out Taproot channels for Lightning generally, which adds additional privacy benefits, fee benefits, things like that, and it also enables you to send assets over the Lightning network. Now, importantly, as mentioned, when you're sending these assets over Lightning, when you have, we saw with Alice and Bob, but when you have like Alice, Bob, Carol, Dave, Aaron, the middle intermediate nodes are routing Bitcoin. They actually don't need to know about the assets. And we believe that's really significant because Leo on our team actually wrote a great piece about how this also helps smaller, say, fiat currencies or community banks bootstrap, because you don't need a whole ton of liquidity on the network in order to transact, because the middle nodes are able to use Bitcoin and they can just do the on-the-fly conversion. And the rate is set by the recipient, and because it's a very quick transaction, the idea is there's not really going to be that much variability in terms of like a second or less of that rate. But what that helps is smaller communities, driven, say, like smaller fiat currencies, they can onboard as well and have Bitcoin liquidity underlie it all. And the Bitcoin node runners can route fiat transactions, but they don't need to know about it. Like, they're just like, hey, I'm just sending Bitcoin and I'm earning fees in Bitcoin, which is really significant for Bitcoin because, as an example, people tend to try to compare liquidity and the total amount of Bitcoin and Lightning to say like a DeFi protocol, right? And that's not at all the case, because with Lightning, you want the funds to be moving. The whole point of Lightning is funds should be moving over and over again, because if they're not moving, they're not useful on the network. Node operators earn fees when the funds are moving, and people that are placing liquidity on the network, and shout out to Alex Bosworth, who is the master of Lightning liquidity, and he has said many times, not all liquidity or capital in the network is equal, and you can have a far more efficient routing node with less capital. By the way, we want to create just like an AI of Alex Bosworth, if anyone has any ideas, like AGI, and we'll just put it in an AI, and then it'll run the whole, all the routing nodes. But not all capital is equal, and you need funds in the right places at the right time in order to send and receive, and that's really significant because, again, on Lightning, you can just have the funds moving over and over again. Like one day when we have $1 billion, say USD worth of BTC on the network, which hopefully will happen pretty soon, you could send many times at a daily volume with efficiently allocated capital that's just constantly moving over and over again. So it's very different than where you're parking, funds or staking or I don't know, trying farming or doing whatever. You're getting more shitcoins. That's not this. This is where you want the funds moving over and over again.
Well, when I knew that we had to talk here, I thought, okay, how many questions do we want to prepare? And I said, okay, I think that we three we're gonna be good. And yeah,
I can go on for a while, but I know we have other talks to get to.
I'm nailing it. I want to say that for people from Barcelona that came here, that you are very lucky because you have such an amazing, bright minds here that you can maybe ask some questions later. That normally you have to take a few planes to be able to see them on stage. So just.
By the way, we do have a developer Slack, the OMD Dev Slack. So also feel free to join that and you can chat with folks. Yeah.
But in person, it's easier, so we can use that here. So yeah, I have 2 questions left. I think that the first one can be asked, because one thing that happened in this time is that the mempool changed. We were very comfortable with one sat byte mempool we could send anytime whatever we wanted, and for Lightning channels that was also amazing, not only for opening but also for closing, and not to be worried about forced closings, no? How has this situation changed your everyday work? Has it affected? Have you thought differently about what you should do? Has something changed?
So I like to say, I know what's going to happen, but I can't tell you exactly when. And with the fees having gone up recently, it's something that we always knew would happen. And we'd seen iterations of it in, say, late 2017, where there was like spam on the network and fees spiked up there. But long term, we have always known and believed that Bitcoin fees will go up. I mean, everyone likely knows here the halving is coming maybe on April 20th, 2024. And as the halvings continue and the supply of Bitcoin is cut in half in terms of new Bitcoin, we're going to need to remunerate miners and ensure that they're incentivized to secure the network. So long term, conceptually, the idea has always been fees will go up on chain. And that's also why if you have a €5 transaction, you're buying your, by the way, coffee's cheaper here than in New York City, so maybe it's like €2. That shouldn't be on the base chain, right? Everyone running full node knows about your €2 coffee transaction. We should, transact with that on Lightning. We should incentivize people to use layer 2 and only put things on the base chain that actually are worth it. So, what we saw with ordinals, inscriptions, ERC20, etc., it's funny, people were like, oh, Taproot doesn't do anything. Well, it turns out there are a lot of other things that happen. My personal take is that it was beneficial for people to see that Bitcoin block space is not going to be free. It is a scarce asset. I'm not commenting on the nature of whether I want JPEGs on the blockchain, and I know there was a lot of discussion around that, but it was useful to the broader community to see, we're not going to get one SAT per byte fees, forever, and in fact, not even for now. And what it actually did was it catalyzed a lot of people to both look into Lightning and then to launch Lightning. Because they realized that sending these, whatever, 5-10 euro transactions on chain was not going to work. It was not going to be efficient from a fee standpoint or from an economical standpoint. So that's been really interesting to see. I mean, of course, in terms of channel opens and closes, that affects fees. In terms of, the liquidity services we run, that affects, say, when we're using Lightning Loop for folks that are getting, say, inbound or outbound, you are paying chain fees as well. There are optimizations that can be done. You don't need to have next block confirmation and things along those lines. But all in all, my take is Bitcoin fees are going up. And miners need to be incentivized and they will need to get paid as the halvings continue. And Lightning is a layer for people to transact on and day-to-day transactions. Now we have very large channels, but back in the day it was smaller amounts, and it's going to keep going up. And I believe that the base layer, the Bitcoin chain, will function also as a layer for lots of batching, right? So you can batch, say, loop transactions. Alex Bosworth talked a lot about that, where you can compress many of those into a single chain transaction. with things like Taproot Assets. You can batch mint assets when that gets to mainnet or even when you're testing on testnet. If folks are familiar with a concept called channel factories, you can effectively batch the ability to open channels within a specific group that goes to the chain, because even if you look at the numbers in the math, it's, we believe in bringing Bitcoin to billions, literally billions, right? Like in the way that the internet is, accessible to billions of people today. With the current constraints of the base layer, having everyone have like multiple transactions even every year, if you're going to onboard them, gets tricky. Or really, it would not be feasible in terms of the current landscape, but we believe in the decentralization of the Bitcoin network, and there's a lot of drama a couple years back. By the way, I highly recommend reading Johnny Beer's Block Size Wars book. Has anybody read it? Mm-hmm. Okay, check it out. But ultimately what Bitcoin ended up on was prioritizing security and decentralization, right? Above all else, and that's why I think we're all here. So, ultimately, fees are going up, transactions need to be moving to Lightning. I believe a lot of people were kind of lazy, for lack of a term, or there was somewhat of a tragedy of the commons where because block space was cheap, they were just not integrating Lightning, and they were not, in 2017, nobody was batching any transactions like exchanges, right? And that was really not making efficient use of the block space. So I believe that this will work itself out, that many more people will move to Lightning, and then we'll look at block space as this commodity, as it should be, as opposed to something that's freely available to everyone, and we will ensure that miners get incentivized.
Okay, I would ask you something else, but I'm going to move to the last question. When I was in Prague, I was talking with few magicians that they work on hardware wallets and also on wallets, and I'm a very passionate person about Miniscript, for example. And we were imagining, we were thinking, how do you imagine the perfect Bitcoin in 5 years' time, something like that, no? And they were talking to me, oh yeah, we will have Frost, we will have music, we will use Miniscript inside music, like nobody will know what are we doing, and yeah, like we will be able to have a wallet that whenever we die, our kids can get the Bitcoin like very easy. So I'm thinking, I'm gonna ask you the same about Lightning. In 5 years' time, if you, with what you know, with what you see that is being worked out, like, how do you imagine Lightning being? What is the Lightning perfect picture that you can imagine?
Well, it's interesting because the responses you got were like somewhat protocol related and somewhat technical, and my vision is really what I like to call Lightning ubiquity, where, first of all, I don't know if people are familiar with like legacy payment systems, but okay, in the US, credit cards, merchants get charged like 3%, right? Small volume payments are completely impractical. For cross-border payments, especially in emerging markets, remittances, sometimes to send like 100 euros, somebody's charged 10, 15%. That is just highway robbery. So the way that I think about it, my 5-year vision is much more about people being able to freely use Bitcoin and Lightning to transact. In many cases, they will not even know they're using Bitcoin. Maybe they know they're using Lightning. Maybe they're sending dollars over the Lightning network. Maybe they're sending euros. Maybe they're, and by the way, one other important thing, when people are sending dollars and euros, they're also going to have some exposure to Bitcoin because they'll have an app or a wallet that will have Bitcoin, and then they'll look into it and say like, well, maybe I don't really want this fiat, but hey, why don't I just, I have 100 euros in my wallet, maybe I'll have half in Bitcoin and keep, some extra euros in there. Then I'll move more Bitcoin, and I actually see that Bitcoinized fiat as a step to this broader Bitcoin Lightning ubiquity, where more and more people will then see why this is so important and adopt Bitcoin and Lightning. So my vision is much more around accessibility. If in 2023 the bots pay you, by 2020, wow, 2028 is 5 years away, right? It'll almost be the end of the decade. I think a lot of bots are going to be paying other bots, right? Like
we're going to be on another halving. 2028 is going to be.
I know, yeah, that's wild, right? Bots are going to be paying a lot of bots. Machines cannot have bank accounts. No big bank is going to give them bank accounts. They are going to be using Bitcoin and Lightning. I believe we're going to see an internet that has this native value layer powered by Bitcoin and Lightning. I believe this AI component is a major part of, it makes perfect sense. It's like, how are people going to pay for APIs, agents going to pay for things? If you actually have an AI that's going to go like, book you something, like someone was saying, like a travel or buy things online, they're going to need to be able to transact, right? Our legacy systems do not enable these types of use cases. So broadly, one, anybody with a mobile phone already has access, right? But will increasingly have even more access with more use cases, more adoption, more ways to transact. Many people will not even know they're using Bitcoin, they may not know they're using Lightning, and this is just the technology that's underlying it, kind of like TCP/IP on the internet. And I believe will enable all these use cases that wouldn't be possible, machine-to-machine otherwise, but will also broaden the access. If you're a 17-year-old developer in, Ghana, right, and you want to build an app, today it's like, well, and you want to charge people, what, you're going to take credit cards? Like, no one's going to give a 17-year-old from Ghana like access to that. Well, guess what? You don't need permission to build with Bitcoin and Lightning. You're going to get onto Replit, you're going to start building applications, and you're going to tap into this value system. So in 5 years, I think this will all be commonplace. Now, it won't be boring, because Bitcoin's never boring. There's always, it always gets interesting, and there's always drama, which, that's part of being in the community. But it will become ubiquitous in a way, and I believe there's somewhat of a point, maybe it's at the next halving, I don't know exactly when, I can't tell you exactly when, where all of a sudden, like, all around us, it's just going to be commonplace and normal, right? And that, I believe we will see within the next 5 years.
Nice. Elizabeth, thank you very much for sharing your ideas and your points of view of how it's Lightning today, how is Lightning going on inside the Lightning Labs doors, and also your views for the future. Is amazing to catch up. I don't know.
Yeah, lots more to discuss, I'm sure, afterward.
Yeah, see you soon probably in another conference, and thank you for joining this.
And by the way, Barcelona is such an incredible city, so excited to be here. We're just like walking around this neighborhood, and I mean, you guys couldn't, first of all, this space is amazing. Thanks for everyone. Like I said, I think, and Jordan can speak to this more, but the people of Barcelona are freedom-loving people, so Bitcoin in Barcelona makes total sense, both for the people that are from here and the people that came here. So thanks so much for having us. Really excited to be here. Global adoption?
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet.
Go on, Lucas. Sure. Thank you for the Bitcoin Barcelona, Bitcoin only. What's the name? Bitcoin only Barcelona. Barcelona Bitcoin only. Thank you for you and ElenPAY for hosting us today. I'm here with Lunaticoin, as you already met, Hannah Rosenberg and Ryan Gentry. Between us here, I think we're in touch with almost every company, developer, and user of the Lightning Network. So, so I think we can have a great discussion here. And I think the first thing I would like to start with is we just got Binance integrating Lightning Network. And I think that's a big deal because of how much they're global and their penetration is really high. So my question to you is, what stage of the cycle of adoption do you guys think we are, and how impactful do you think Binance is going to be? So in short, medium term, what do you expect to happen?
Yeah, so hi, thank everybody for having us. Thrilled to be here. Really enjoyed being in Barcelona this week. In terms of what stage of adoption of the Lightning Network we are, as Elizabeth was saying earlier, it's year 5 now. And maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, the network, was kind of tough to send $20, didn't really work all that well. There weren't really many wallets. Now it's very consumer friendly. Payments kind of, almost always succeed. They're very cheap. I think we're at the point in the cycle where we are like purely ready for global adoption. And I think that Binance getting on board as the largest exchange in the world, at points we're probably doing 30 to 40% of like the total on-chain volume for Bitcoin, right? And that's, I think, validation that Lightning is as a protocol and as a network is ready for prime time. And I think the really cool thing about that is that Lightning is truly a bottoms-up, grassroots, built by the people, peer-to-peer network, right? There is no $200 million foundation paying people to run nodes, right? The Lightning Network is built of a bunch of plebs with Raspberry Pis in their homes, or nodes on servers who are allocating their own liquidity, putting their own capital at risk, and routing payments for the world. And so I think it's really amazing and really validating to get to this point where this network, this grassroots network is reliable enough that the biggest exchange in the world is adopting it. But this is just the beginning. We got billions of people left on board, and so this is a really nice milestone. But we still got a really long ways to go. Or I guess the positive spin is we still have a lot of upside from here.
Yes. So that was just telling Ryan, like I kind of, since almost getting doxxed many years ago, I actively avoided exchanges. I know what's going on. But one thing that comes to mind is just that if any of you have been in the Bitcoin space for a long time, just like, and thankfully it's not even really a topic of conversation anymore because it's so clear, but just this idea that like Lightning's not going to be used, it's not a thing, and then now it's just constantly, all this news comes out, you're just like, see, I was right, yeah, that's awesome. So that's my 2 cents on my ends, but that's a lot.
Yeah, I think that we Bitcoiners, we are in a sweet spot with Lightning now because, for example, I can see it every week. We do a live stream every Thursday, Bitcoin 2140, and we decided a year ago, something like that, to move to a value for value model, but to like a value for value model first. So I will explain you now. Like we do live and everybody can watch it, but after live we block. Nobody else can see until we get to a certain amount on a prop fund, okay? And we use BTC server, we use our own node, and so on. And what we see, people can choose if they want to pay on-chain or Lightning. And I think that it's more or less 90–95% of all the unlocking of the live streams, because they all got unlocked. It's Lightning. So what I see is that adoption between Bitcoiners is, I would say, quite complete. What we are missing is everybody else, So we have awareness, and that's good, that's great. People know how to jump in, and I remember 2019 when Blue Wallet integrated Lightning or custodial Lightning, and everybody wanted to get in, nobody knew what they were doing. Now Bitcoiners know what they do. My only concern between Bitcoiners would be are everybody able to run a node to open a channel, or this adoption is based on Get Albi, wallet of Satoshi, and so on. So this is maybe my concern in between this last wave of Bitcoiners that happened due to Nostr, due to Zaps. How is it? Also, the LLURL protocols got a lot of people confused. Everybody wants a Lightning address, but not everybody is able to have a server 24/7 that manages. I mean, they don't have the knowledge of how to create that. So nice and sweet for Bitcoiners with this sour doubt of not knowing if they know what they do, really, and then I believe that we're at the gates of the bigger adoption. But I can speak with my family and friends, and I say, I'll send you Lightning, and then people will tell me, no problem, here it is. We're still not there, we're at the beginning of it.
Yeah, and I think the indication that LNURL and Lightning and Threads gives to us is that people are looking for something simple, and our job as people like building this infrastructure is to build the tools that will allow developers to make it easier and easier for users to use it. And if they want Lightning address, you just need to make like the Lightning address better and better for it to be easier for someone to run anything on non-custodial way. And I think like Hannah is talking with developers all the time. Ryan is talking with lots of companies and projects that are building on Lightning. What do you think are the applications that will bring the next level of adoption for the Lightning Network?
Yeah, I really like what you said that at this point we have all the Bitcoiners, but we're missing everybody else, right? And I think that was something that we heard loud and clear in 2021. That was kind of like the year of, in my mind, the year of emerging markets adoption, because the El Salvador news, making Bitcoin legal tender, and kind of like the specific example of Strike, sending remittances down to El Salvador, just really opened a bunch of people's eyes to like, oh, this is clearly a silly thing that we have to deal with, that we can't do this, that we have to go through Western Union, a company founded in 1860 to privatize the telegraph, right? Like we have to pay them $20 per remittance, like that's just silly. Obviously, we should have a better solution to this and Lightning work for it, right? So we saw this emerging markets adoption. What we heard from all these companies, as the year went on, was kind of like, okay, this has been great, but we got all the Bitcoiners, right? And like what the next group of people want is the dollar. Right, like there is just, not everybody, it takes a while to kind of conceptualize Bitcoin and be used to the volatility and things like that, what people are used to and familiar with is the stability of the dollar. So I think that's where the Taproot Assets project is incredibly exciting for that demographic in particular, because it gives them, the world-class payments experience of, globally reachable, instantly settling ability payments, with unit of account with the choice. I think that's just going to be like a really, really powerful combination, specifically for onboarding the everybody else, that we need to make this network reach its full potential.
Yep, I agree. And when I think about adoption, I tend to think of it like very different groups of people using it. Like if you're in the States or if you're here in Europe and you're using the dollar and using the EU, right? You don't necessarily have a feeling like, well, probably all of us because we understand it, but everyone else out there probably isn't feeling a strong need to use Bitcoin or adopt Bitcoin, or they're not having a strong pain at the moment, anyhow. But if you look at like why someone would use this stuff and how it'll get adopted, I think in places in the world like the States and EU and all of that we'll see a lot of adoption happening on the back end, right? Because Lightning Network is just such a dramatically better payment network. And a really cool hackathon that's happening now is the AI for All, where we're looking at where people are putting together, having AI bots, AI agents, accept Lightning payments, right? Using the L402 protocol, right? So they can get paid using Lightning, or they can go out and do things on your behalf using the Lightning network. And Lightning and those bots, are just such a great combination, right? So I think in, the first world, for lack of a better term, right, we'll see adoption on the back end. And then thinking about Taproot Assets in other parts of the world, the majority of the world that doesn't have access to at least not horrible money, right, is that, they want access to a better system. And something like Taproot Assets, where you could maybe have something like a US dollar stablecoin. It's like, all right, probably none of us are terribly excited about a US dollar stablecoin, but they provide a lot of utility for people who otherwise don't have access to anything stable at all. And what's really interesting to me about that, though, is the adoption of that infrastructure. Right, if people start using, a stable coin, if it's on the Lightning Network, they're adopting Lightning infrastructure. That's really powerful and really interesting. So I think adoption happens differently depending on where in the world you are.
Yeah, it's. I have a lot of thoughts about the dollar, and that's what I put on my show lately. I think with guests that I have about the fiat system and why do we use the dollar, the euro, and so on, if we all know that it's so bad. Stability is very important for a lot of people. I don't know which is going to be the system that is going to succeed, if it's going to be Taproot Assets or which, no? But I think at the moment that people will have the possibility to having the same wallet for example, dollars and Bitcoin, what I think that will happen is that people will start think about assets and about value. And we'll start to realize that maybe they want to hold Bitcoin because this is like a long-term asset, and then they want to spend, kind of like a Gresham law thing, they want to spend the worst currency, which is the dollar, and maybe this is what I got from speaking with people in El Salvador, which I was 2 years ago and also last year, and I saw people that the first year they were happily charging me coconuts in El Fonte for Bitcoin, and the year after she was telling, yeah, you can pay with Bitcoin, but today night I'm gonna go sell it because I cannot afford the volatility. No, I need to buy more coconuts, and between today and tomorrow, the volatility can kill my business, so I cannot afford it. So this is a very interesting topic that is learning economy, finance, and nobody taught us that. That's something that is not on schools, I don't know why. So I think that having a wallet that will start to have these two assets will make us learn. And from another, like before, there was this question from here, no, to Jordi, like, but when I will be able to pay using Lightning? And okay, imagine that we have Taproot Assets and we have USDT or whatever on Taproot Assets, but we will need people accepting also those dollars. So in El Salvador will be no problem because there was such a marketing campaign from the president and the government that people know that, okay, yeah, don't pay me with Bitcoin because it's volatile, but let's use Bitcoin Bit wallet and I want to receive stable sats, and that's okay because I know that somebody else will accept it. But outside El Salvador, without this marketing campaign, we will need also a process of people starting to accept either Lightning, pure Bitcoin, or either stable assets, stable sats, or however it will be called, like a stable thing.
Yeah, another thing that this global adoption will bring is people working on all different types of work from all over the world will have access to getting paid from people in all the other parts of the world. So like, if you want to give them some examples of how Lightning allows for new types of interactions between not only people but also machines, and like new types of ways of including everyone in the world in the financial world.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you would be able to speak to this better than me, but I just love the idea of value for value, and I love the idea of streaming stats for podcasting, because that is something where, you know, podcasters, because of the way RSS is set up, and because that's the protocol for which they distribute podcasts, like monetization was just a huge problem for this, you know, subset of the industry, the only option was advertising. And so then Lightning comes along, Adam Curry comes along, puts the two together and comes up with podcasting 2.0. Now all of a sudden, you know, like it's, and you know, like we were talking the other night, maybe it's not enough earnings yet to, you know, buy a yacht or something like that, but it's steadily trickling in. It's steadily growing, it's steadily increasing, and the more users with Lightning wallets, like the more stats that start flowing in to podcasters, and it's becoming like a really material, you know, thing, part of podcasters, daily earnings. And I think another thing that was really cool that people saw, Wavelake is, you know, a Lightning startup who is focused on musicians rather than podcasters, helping musicians monetize their work over the Lightning Network. They had a really, really cool and interesting announcement that I think shows the power of the value for value model, where Wavelake, this was like a little bit of inside baseball with kind of music licensing, but if you have, they said in their announcement that, you know, people might notice there's not music in podcasts, right? Like that is just something that you don't ever see really is, you know, clips of music in podcasts. And the reason why is because it's just such a headache for the podcasters to go and talk to the rights owners of the music and, you know, figure out the licensing and talk to lawyers and all that sort of stuff, so they just avoid it. Wavelake's catalog, their kind of pitch is that, you know, the music is now open source. And so anybody can include the music, and they just ask that if you include the music in your podcast, you stream some stats to the musician while you're listening. Right, so that is, I think, just a really cool, brand new kind of composability thing where the music is given away for free, but if the value model still works, musicians can still get paid. And importantly, they can get paid by anywhere around the world, right? Which is, you know, just brand new. And so I think that there are these new models that are going to pop up with kind of open information, open payment protocols, and kind of big new markets that are just really exciting to start to see happening.
Yeah, and there's just so many cool new applications, but one that I was thinking about just the other day is, did you all remember Open Bazaar, which is a really awesome project? Yeah, and I love Open Bazaar, and I've been hearing the other day about this project. It's like Nostr, based on Nostr, was the idea of creating that decentralized marketplace using Lightning and Nostr. And to me, that is so cool, because I love that concept of these open marketplaces, because you can use them from anywhere in the world, right? If you have access to, you know, a computer on the internet, and you have Lightning, you can use this protocol. And so I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of these. I think there's 2 different ones out there. I can't remember the name of them. But stuff like that is really, really cool. And then just looking at all these cool things coming together, Lightning, AI, Nostr, like Lightning just really is the money of the internet. And so anyone who has the internet can use it, and they get to join the global marketplace. So that's really awesome.
Now with what you said about AI, so it's funny because when you think deeply about Bitcoin, you realize that this is the money that Ford had in mind, like in the beginning of the 20th century, you know, the energy money. And this is, you cannot get lower than that. I mean, you can get atomic, but basically it's all about energy. And so basically machines are going to be talking their language, that is power consumption and then power money, you know. For me, yeah, podcasting 2.0 is great. I have many experiences on that, and it changed completely the way I do my show since last year. Despite I've been using podcasting 2.0 since the beginning, but last year the tooling happened, and then I could really use it, all the information I was receiving. But what for me, it's what I'm going to say now is very simple. But for me, what is crazy is that somebody can we can connect with Australia now on a webcam, and he can just show us an invoice, and that we can pay it, and we didn't ask permission to anybody. And all this is great, and Bitcoin is the chance that we have to change not only how the payment system works, but also how monetization works on the internet. And there is a book I recommend, it's called Privacy is Power by Carissa Belif. And she explains the beginning of the story of Google and how they didn't want to use advertising to monetize Google. They were struggling, and at the end they surrendered and they say, okay, full advertisement. But they were struggling because they didn't want to lose that privacy part of the users. At the end they didn't find any other way, and instead of closing Google, they said, okay, all the way in. But this is the thing, we're going back to the moment where geeks, internet geeks had to think, how do we monetize this? And they didn't have time. So now we have it. Now we can change how things work, and we can make, for example, models like value for value model work. So yeah, this is that's what doesn't allow me to sleep at night.
Yeah. I think now we're gonna have ElenPAY, Jose from ElenPAY give his talk. Thank you, everyone.
Hello everyone, welcome. Thank you so much. Now we're doing English. Yeah, we're doing English. I mean, if you want to speak, we'll start speaking Spanish later, we can. Yeah. Thank you so much, Barcelona Bitcoin, for inviting us. Also, welcome to Spain, Lightning Labs. Hope you enjoy the country. So basically, I'm going to tell you a story about chronicles of a Lightning native PSP, a payment service provider. Whoops. Yeah. Okay, so I'm Jose Antonio. I work for Global Labs, which is the company behind ElenPAY. I'm a Lightning engineer. So we think that there are 5 components, right? Like a biblical proportion, right? Like Satoshi wrote us, like A good PHP needs to have these 5 commandments. The first one is like, you shall have a lot of liquidity, otherwise your customer is going to get mad. You shall be well connected to the network. You also shall provide a good uptime with high availability to your customers. You're a custodial service, you are expected to be running well. You shall provide also a great user experience, and also you shall prioritize and ensure security. We are a custodial service. Security is very important. So for the first one, we basically we were designing a lot. As I said earlier, liquidity is like the top problem of the Lightning Network. People say that Lightning Network is a liquidity problem that you need to solve. Once you have the liquidity problem solved, most of the things are eventually working well. So how do we solve this problem especially? Well, we basically solve this problem with 2 products, right? The first one is Lightning Labs, which the people here know about. Yeah. The other one, which is for open source treasury management solution, which we presented in BTC Prague, also in Barcelona last month. So basically, with this tandem of products, we basically solve the first commandment, right? So yeah, we have the liquidity. Our customers are happy with that. Basically, the liquidity problem is basically you need to have all the time the channels rebalancing, because otherwise, if you receive so much processing like us, eventually your channels go out of balance, right? So you need to rebalance out, and also for security reasons, it's really nice to swap out or loop out the money. So basically, you can still process money with liquidity. Yeah, so the second one should be what connected to the network, right? So we have several indicators basically on who we should connect to. The first one is, and we refer to peers, right? All the Lightning nodes. The first one is uptime. We really monitor that the other peers they're running good software, good hardware, and they're running a stable version of a Lightning node. We also check that the latency is good, so they still see that they have a good network connection. We also check that the view rate, because we want, Lightning network has some incentives, right? But we don't want to use a peer that is costing too much money for our clients or even for us to process the Lightning network. So we monitor the view rate to be fair enough, right? We also check that the other node is business or professionally managed, because that's having a Lightning node. We also know some people here about having Satoshi have some problem with a Lightning node. Running a Lightning node in the long run can be tough, right? So yeah, for us as a business, we look that it's professional, it's better, right? So we really look at that. Then we look also at capacity, which is normally correlated also to be professional, unless you start thinking Bitcoin every day, so congratulations for those. And then we also check about the routing success rate. We want to know that the other node is behaving well in routing. So how do we build that? Basically, for this to be well connected, you need to have a good telemetry. The third one, which is related to telemetry, you shall provide good uptime with high availability, right? So basically what you are seeing here, let me ask a question. Who you were in BTC Prague? Who went to BTC Prague? Okay, did you pay your Lightning? Do you use Lightning? Okay, you process your last thing. Yeah. So basically what you're seeing is a snapshot of telemetry in BTC Prague. So you can see here, for example, that all the days were moving. We have the big launch here in BTC Prague on the 3 days, these were the biggest days. So managing the liquidity, you see clearly how here in the peak, you can correlate with automatic rebalancing, right? You see here that the channel balances are going to 0. We consider 0 a really bad number because that means we don't have invalid liquidity. So we just use loop in another to do that in a secure way. So basically, we move the funds back. This what you see is some fees we pay to Lightning Labs. So yeah, happy customer here. And yeah, this is the telemetry. So good telemetry is the key, because if you cannot measure something, you cannot do nothing, right? So how did we build this telemetry? Basically, We are based on the open telemetry open source project for all components, right? It's a awesome specification and protocol. We also use LND embedded net telemetry plus LND mode to also gather more metrics from the node. We also have our own Houston metrics in NodeGuard Liberator, which is a subcomponent of NodeGuard, which is in charge of managing the liquidity of the channels, and invoking rule, and also recording metrics in a way that fits our needs. And then we have also custom metrics in our BTC VPA, which is the ElenPAY edition report. It's our fork where we added some more enterprise-ready features, and we also added the required telemetry to serve our customers. So yeah, telemetry is super important for the Lightning to succeed. So, but we have a catch. I have to say that okay, so we were the feature making processor in BTC Graph. Some stuff that we have there, just to show you how the telemetry went. It was a 3-day conference. We processed over 1.37 Bitcoin in votes. We did over 40 transactions, approximately 16K HTLC words sold. We have a 98% of success rate in HTLC resolution, which I think for the Lightning Network is pretty nice. We did 13 swaps, and we have a swap volume of 0.65 Bitcoin. So yeah, why not? Yeah, we have it. Yeah. And more to go. And we have a 99.99 uptime with an average packet latency, which is like a measure of the network of 1.64 seconds, which Visa sometimes not that fast. But the payments are faster, right? This is the global backend latency. But it's a catch. We need the commandment of the high availability. We don't think we are there yet, at least as far as we know. Right? We are not in a cloud native paradigm yet, as far as we know. We have several challenges, right? The first one is scalability. Basically, for a PSP, we have many nodes or many instances of ElenPAY, but we would like to have a way like to have multiple nodes that work together, that solve HTLCs, which is why I say here, when multiplexing. There was an open source project called ElenMuse, which, to be honest, I don't know when. Maybe I can ask here later about how to use like a single line node as an entry point for load balancing. We also have some challenge in the storage replication, again, when it is indeed stable, because we would like to have a distributed database in Kubernetes. So right now we rely sometimes on file system, and yeah, we will provide like a more cloud native way of storing data, right? We also like to have the graph decoupled from the P2P gossip, because sometimes we found some problem with the synchronization. Because if we want to run a set of nodes, maybe we just want a central point of the graph. That's something also we really like to have. And yeah, number 4, you shall provide a great user experience. We think that deposits are okay. You pay the Lightning, it's a good experience, but with Robert, we think there is a lot of work in progress. UX, yeah. So, what we think for a good withdrawal process for our clients is like we would like to have static invoices, so basically they can load a code or a QR code, whatever, to the merchant for a refund. It's like having an email address. We would like to have to be the Lightning native, because right now we rely on URL withdrawal, which is great. But it's not, sometimes it's clunky, it's not atomic, you have several steps to do a withdrawal. I think it's just a workaround to make it work, but we would like to have a way to, and this is very nice to have, push payments, right? Which is directly, if imagine our client accepts a refund, basically we would like to push from the PSP, which is us, to our customer directly. Don't make them create an invoice, so which is basically what's going to do. We have AMP in LND, which is great, but the thing that it's only on LND. It's only on LND. It would be nice to have it in more implementations. So that's also a problem we have right now. And then we have all 12, which is we think which is eventually going to solve all these problems will be static invoices, Lightning native, and we also solve push payments. But when we get to all 12, it's going to solve a lot of problems for our customers. So that's where we need to reach. So yeah, point number 5, that's the last one, is like you shall prioritize security and social security. So we build Noteware for open source treasury management solutions. So the idea is to protect L1 funds without making them rely on the whole wallet of the node. So basically, if we follow the transaction externally, using multi-sig and things like that, hopefully we can use Taproot channels and new C2 also to do new multi-sigs more cheap and more private. And you can also use the remote signing if you want to protect layer 2 keys. We are also potentially working on solving this problem also at Noteware level. We would like to do that. But yeah, that's a work in progress. But if you want to shoot security, protect the keys probably in a way, and there are other ways to do it. So, yeah, that's it. If you have some questions, happy to answer.
Does someone has a question?
Perfect. Imagine that you made like some of the implementators of the tools that you use. What would you ask? Like what it's burning you the most?
So sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, like imagine that you made Yeah, perfect. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Imagine that you made the people that develop some of the tools that you use. What burns you the most? Like what would you ask them? Some of them were already in the slides, but I wonder if there are other things too.
Yeah, basically that's what I said. Basically, I think all 12 will be really nice for us, to be honest. Also, scalability. I mean, we really would like to have multiplexing on Lightning nodes because we want to ensure high availability, right? We shouldn't depend on one single node for one time. We would like to have a way to have a cluster, right? Or at least a replicated way in Kubernetes or something like that. That's high availability. Serving the withdrawals for a PSP like us, like we will solve a lot of problems with that. So that'll be good. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Does anyone else has another question? Oh yeah, we have one there.
I can reply in Spanish also. So. Can I get a free Lightning Network for my t-shirts? Yes! Thanks. It was a question.
My question is actually for Alex Bosworth. I would love to hear your response as the master of Lightning liquidity to kind of what they're working on and what it said.
Well, I think it sounds like the perfect use case. I mean, we talked to a lot of people getting started, and those are definitely the two things that we always highlight, that we always hit. Number one is security of the node. If you don't have coins on the node, then you don't have to worry about security. That's like the ultimate way to keep your node secure is don't keep too much funds on the hot wallet. And number two is, if you're receiving money and the flow is unidirectional, that's not the sweet spot for Lightning. Lightning wants to be bidirectional. You want to be receiving funds and sending funds out, receiving funds and sending funds out. And what we're doing is we're creating batches of people, all different people all around the world. We're creating batches where people send us funds off-chain, and we make a big batch on-chain to non-custodially swap with everybody so that they can reverse those flows.
Yeah, that's basically you have some thresholds in order. For example, if we process certain threshold channel, we don't want to have that layer 2 money, and we just move it to both directions. Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, another question? Anyone? Where are they? Oh, yeah.
I'm curious. I wasn't in Prague, but for you as a company, like, how do you convince some other customer to be using ElenPAY versus, I don't know, maybe they set up their own BTC Pay, probably not. Or like, what's your challenge to get people to be using you to accept payments?
I mean, honestly, if you want to be software, you can run your own service, right? But if you want an on-call service 24/7, you want to have the liquidity managed, you want people that are really all the day looking for a business, and you want a professionally managed service for your SaaS, you can use that. We are also developing for a way if you go with after certain thresholds, we automatically sweep out the money, so we don't take your funds. So it's like, it's not custodian, it's custodian, but at some point, we just sweep up and we send the money to the BTC to you. So it's about if you want to manage a professional service, yeah, that's what I say.
Cool.
Just a small comment. I was in Prague. I did about 20 payments, and they were all super fast. So congrats. That was a great experience.
Alright, so I think we've got everything. Thank you, Jose. And now, before we go home, I just want to tell you, sorry for the interruption. We have 1 hour more here, okay? So we can stay until 10. Okay, where's my mouse here? And a little shield, okay. So for any one of you who would like to give a donation to us, we will leave this here. Thank you guys for coming, it's been a pleasure. We hope to host you sometime again here. And yeah, just a last chill. If someone wants to buy no KYC Bitcoin, just talk to me. Thank you. Oh, and you can buy beers again in the bar. So there we go.